Yes, so first of all, thanks for the invitation, and sorry for not being able to attend yesterday's part and tomorrow the morning part of the session. So it's Parliamentary week in Berlin, so it's relatively hard for me to sneak out, at least since there's social media and stuff, so it's obvious where I am. I'm not in Berlin where I'm supposed to be, but I really like the topic, and I think we've a bit of a momentum here as well on a societal side and on a technological side, but I'll come back to that later. So I just named the presentation Lost in Strategies, because this is sometimes how it feels in politics. We have strategies on basically on every level of the German politics. So there are the states who have some strategies, there's basically the federal layer, there's Europe. So how do we all put that together, and basically how do we do it on a European level? So the introduction was already done. So with the committees, I'm not the vice president of the Enquete Commission, so I don't want to get promoted here. So, but still, the Enquete Commission is an interesting thing to mention real quick. I guess the committees, it's clear what they do, but there is the AI kind of hype at the moment, we all know that, and for the parliament it's very hard to somehow sort it into regulatory frameworks, but as well to sort it into committees, because AI is more or less like a tool. It's everything and nothing, and to some extent I feel that we are running into the same problem when we talk about DLT. So obviously I'm in the Committee for Education, Research and Technology. I was a computer scientist, so to me the interesting part is the technology stack and what we can do decentralized. So if you talk to somebody in the finance committee, they talk about assets, crypto, so they are interested in that part. And it's super hard to basically frame it, and basically I will come back to that as well. So since we all should start with a vision, so this is theoretically how we should act in Europe. So if you think about it, this would be heaven, being coordinated, working together, being aligned, still all being somehow individuals, but in the end being strong and not possibly being attacked by some bigger predator or bigger guys in the market. So when you are elected to Bundestag, or you come from the tech side into the political side, you realize that we actually more look like that, so a bit paralyzed. There might be, over here, there might be some teamwork, but not for real. And this is how I feel, basically, sometimes. And the downside is, if we don't move, technological-wise, we might end up like that. And basically, this is the case, what we need to avoid. And why can that happen? And since, I mean, you're all basically, you know that, so normally I have to set the stage a bit. We have the other big fish in the sea, for sure. We have the US with all the venture capital, but as well with infrastructure. So, and that's a real strong thing if you think about Ethereum, Blockstack, and all these companies. So luckily there is still some development done in Germany. Berlin is pretty strong for Ethereum and also for Yoda, but still they are good in infrastructure. We have China, basically having the state money and having a top-down system, very organized and very eager to win. So, and then there we are, Europe. So we are third place in that race, but we have some things to sort out. So one thing I mentioned, it's the numbers from 2018, but it's slightly changing. But still, if you think about Brexit, UK was pretty big when it comes to startup scene, when it comes basically to monetizing things and to bring basically funding money. So this is something we need to sort out. I personally think no single country is competitive on its own. We might find niches, and I'll come back to that because I think this is a plus as well. But if you take the total, we probably are all not competitive against the US or China. But we have one big advantage, because we basically are, by default, we are decentralized. We are federal in our thinking. We are different countries. We learn to sort it out. And this is something we really have to use to not end up like the fish on the sushi plate, but maybe being lucky that the big fish share face with dinosaurs and we are the winner in that race. So how are we doing that, and why I really think there is a momentum as technologically but as well politically to be able to explain our society what we are trying to do and trying to build. Because as said, we had local markets for ages. We had different currencies, we had borders, we had all that stuff. So it was kind of normal for us to know that we are decentralized and that we are different. The downside is that due to that, we basically accepted to have central structures to somehow coordinate that with like an EZB or whatever, because this was the obvious solution in that time when there was no technological possibility to sort it out for us, because there was just no concept then bringing up centralized things. So basically, we went down that road, and now we are where we are. We have the madness of bureaucracy and all the other things, and the countries are regulating for themselves. There's a PwC study talking to startups. They're saying the regulation question is the biggest thing hindering them to go through, because they just don't know basically what to do, and even if they are okay in one country, they cannot scale. I guess it's nothing new to all of us. So what's the quick solution? And I was already discussing it in some round. So politically seen, and I'm lucky that they made it into the German strategy, are the regulatory sandboxes. So personally, I don't think it's realistic that the government will sort out all cases in basically that speed an evolving market and technology needs. So the first thing we can do is the concept of regulatory sandbox, to basically get rid or postpone, or however you want to name it, some regulatory burden from, for example, a company, or maybe if it's big data, we're discussing it for the Charité in Berlin, a hospital, to basically lower data protection a bit, that they can do stuff on the AI side. So these sandboxes are in some countries, they are already available. In Germany, unfortunately, we are sometimes a bit slower in decision making. We've now have them in our strategy, and this is basically the thing to don't really kill the innovation before it actually has the chance to grow. Going on, I already mentioned the German blockchain strategy, and I'm not here to do like opposition against it, so I try to be very neutral, because there's pros and cons in that strategy. So the pros is basically it's influenced by the community, and I had the chance to talk to some people who were allowed to participate, and that's very different to the other strategies who basically have been done by our government. So they accepted, first time they really deeply accepted the fact that they need the support from the community, from the field, and from the people really executing and making money out of it. And so you can really see and read that in some parts when you read about the use cases, they really make sense. So it's not wisdom, or it's not a political will what we would have, so it's very realistic on that case, so that's a big plus. All the stuff like smart contracts and that the ID topic is a big one is in there. I would say outside of Germany that was clear before, but now right now we have it basically written that we agree to that. The use cases, I guess you've all basically are aware, they are good ones. Personally, since I'm in the education scope, we are pushing for an initiative to put the ECTS credit points on a blockchain, and also if you want to your CVs and all your basically work results, because we think that would also be nice if Germany goes into the lead. We ask for a hackathon, and then basically you can just, if you apply, you just hand out your public key and they can check all your track record, and you don't need to ask your university for reapproving whatever certificate. And so this is stuff, and I'll come to that to my last slide, what I basically want you to help. These are examples and things you can explain to non-tech ordinary people, saying, have you ever applied 10 times? Or wasn't it a mess to get the certificates 10 times, blah, blah, blah. How about just handing out your private key, and then your public key, private one would not be a good idea. So, and then they start to think about and understand it. The cons, to speed up a bit, the cons is that sometimes if you read it, when it comes to, I called it E-bonds, like the Schuldscheinverschreibungen, they said, yeah, we do that. If it's one step further, talking about shares and invest, then it's, yeah, let's do a Prüfauftrag. So we have to look deeper into that. And this is typical German. So the first sentence sounds like, yeah, we're flying to the moon. And the next one is, yeah, but let's see. So unfortunately, it still happens. For example, as well with Davos, I think a super interesting field. Personally, I would have enjoyed if they would say, look, we try to launch 10 prototypes just to see how they evolve and does it work. But they just said, yeah, we've got it on the list, we will check on it. And so these are areas where innovation at least if you think about it from a regulator or country, if you would even push that or basically encourage people to play around with it, I think it could be very beneficial instead of just saying, yeah, we're looking into it and leaving the market alone. Because people who want to start something in that area, they feel not supported, and that's one of the biggest problems. So if I talk to startups and people, they mostly say, look, we don't especially want the best regulation in the world, but we just want coverage. So we want to know if you really support us. And Mr. Macron did something smart. There was a speech when he went out and explained that DLT and crypto is the future. And so I talked to startups who basically went to Paris because they said, look, there is at least the big boss in the news saying, we believe in you, so we go there. And so sometimes we don't basically support them, or at least not the politicians which are on top level, but this is going to change. So luckily we have that strategy. Other strategies, just to tell you that I was kind of shocked that at least in the federal politics scene, we don't discuss the strategies of other countries. So that's actually a bit of a problem, because we're trying to reinvent the wheel. And so I'm interested, and I tried to read as many of them as I can. Unfortunately, I'm not only there for supporting blockchain and DLT topics, but there is smart stuff in there, like Switzerland and what they did in Zug. So very rational, very technology neutral, and they didn't try to pass special blockchain legislation in that case. They were looking by use case, when do we need to adapt, which I personally think is the smart way, and was to some extent as well a role model for the German current movement. Liechtenstein, you guys all know that example, that's the other way. I'm not sure if Germany would be able to write such a law at the moment. So there's too much uncertainty, and we had this in the discussion there. Politics need to support, yes, but somehow they can as well screw up. So it can be it can be good, and it can be bad. Therefore, I don't think we are at the point yet where we could write a real law concerning DLT technologies. So Singapore, crypto heaven, if you follow that, it was the crypto heaven, but right now, if you follow that, there is many news about fraud, and they basically are a bit unsatisfied with their ICO behaviors and stuff. So the heaven gets a bit cloudy right now, and this is as well interesting for a legislator to look at the markets who are already there and to avoid the mistakes they already have done. Israel, I just put that up because from a technology perspective, so being the IT guy, that's super interesting that they're trying to build a foundation. So they are not really aiming too much for the crypto topics. They are aiming for infrastructure, surely with a big push from defense, a big push for IDs, for data security. So this is definitely a nation to follow, where I think we can learn in that scope. Will there be a European answer, and how will it look like? And I guess this is the big question, because as of now, the European Commission only released papers, so there is no European strategy. And talking about the sandboxes again, I think we need to change how we see Europe, because in the end, and there is this nice analogy if you are in business about the tanker and the speedboat, and we actually had it just in our discussion. So all the time in my old life at SAP, I heard, yeah, but we are a big company, you know, we are the tanker, we have to be the speedboat. So it was always bad to be the tanker. If we talk about politics, then it's good to be the tanker. Oh, it's China, they're so big, it's the US, they are so big, oh, we are only the little Europe. So it does not fit together. So we need to understand that diversity and being able to have that many strategies in one area is actually the benefit by itself. So if what Liechtenstein does is super, put it up to European level and bring it down to the national level again. So we have to learn that basically Europe is the toolbox, and to make that possible, that's a shift in mindset, and it's a shift in technology. Because before, we were competing, for sure, and we will, but with DLT technologies, with no middlemen, with basically no ultimate whatever country to trust. So if Germany goes in the lead, then probably smaller countries will say, oh, it's Germany again. If the smaller ones go, we'll say, yeah, but we are the manufacturing country, blah, blah, blah. So this is the dance we did for 50 years. And there is the momentum to change that if we set up a decent technical foundation and we change a bit how we think and accept to learn from each other. And I'm saying this as a politician, knowing how hard it is, because it's absolutely not yet my daily business. But this is why I'm here and why I'm running around trying to preach that this is ultimately how we can win. Because, and basically that's what's on there, if we really want to execute with a digital single market, that's a perfect idea, but it's not only legislation, it's as well infrastructure. And I'm kind of happy about the initiative from Peter Altmaier about Gaia X. If we do it right, it's perfect. But it has to be a decentralized edge cloud network. If we try to build a super mega duper cloud, what basically US did 20 years ago, just with our money, we will miserably fail. Because again, this is absolutely not in our nature. Even if this is the super coolest hosting cloud, we are decentral by nature, by culture. We live in federalism, we don't like monopolies, it will not work. And therefore, I will do everything what I can in my opposition role to basically support that project, but to make sure it will be a decentralized infrastructure with high interoperability, because this is basically the only chance we have. And then we have an absolute positive chance to gain our market share. And I always explain it with the example of Dropbox. I hope there is nobody here from Dropbox, nothing against it. But there's, for example, Storage, so it's decentralized cloud storage. And if they both work handy, if they both do the same from a user perspective, nobody would agree to put their data to the US in a big super data bucket without control. They would all use the decentralized, distributed, secure, encrypted way. But it has to be as smooth as Dropbox. So I think the concepts are there, but we are struggling in having real apps and examples and usability on the DLT side, or basically as well on the industry side. And this is my last slide, and basically this is what I'm hoping to get from you, from industry, from academia. We need examples who work on a courtyard, on a marketplace for normal people to explain. And I was at Deutsche Bahn, and they were showing me the case if they have split fares or something, basically from Zug zum Flug and all these offers. So they had big struggle to sort out how to split that. And the ideal thing is a blockchain, because there's all these little, basically, the taxi drivers, whatever. So they didn't believe Deutsche Bahn as the central big guy in the room to coordinate it for them, but they were not powerful to do it on their own. And that's a super example where it really makes sense to use a blockchain and be decentralized. And if I talk to people, they get it. They understand, okay, this is why we do it, and we don't need the freaky examples. And the next thing is, talk to your politicians. Not only to the ones who are interested in that topic anyhow, like myself, I'm convinced, but really ring these guys up who basically live in your area. Because what I expected, I was elected to parliament, and I think it was BTC Echo asking me for an interview, and I gave a speech about blockchain and super, and next day, it was the Börse Stuttgart called. If I want to see how cool their marketplace works. So next time I said something, the Deutsche Notarkammer called me because they wanted to talk to me. So there's this instant lobby response as soon, basically, as you sneak out. And if you're convinced in a topic because you understand it or you like it, that's not a problem. But I'm the technology guy in parliament. So if you imagine some ordinary politician sitting there for 20 years, listening to the guys who are always there, and then basically a blockchain guy shows up, like whatever, unshaved. I had one coming in with a long board, super cool guy. But if you just think you're a politician, you're not really into the topic, whom would you trust? The guys who are talking to you for 20 years, or the other ones saying, yeah, we don't need middleman, disruption is the cool thing to do, hey ho. So, and this is a bit of a problem because this guy might be right. So therefore really talk to your politicians surrounding you, because if you talk to people in the ministry, that's perfect, they will write it down, but you need as well the parliament to back it up. And if this only remains at the tech area or at that little finance area, it will not work. We will not be managed to scale, and then it will not be in speeches in whatever beer tents, and then we will never really get it out that powerful as we need it. And therefore, big push to talk to them. Let me check my time. Yeah, because otherwise, and we had examples as well this morning with Libra. So they did a lot of damage, to be honest. In the German strategy, we even say we don't need stable coins at all. And this is a typical political overreaction. I mean, you can like them, you cannot like them, but I wouldn't have written down that we don't need them at all. So why is that? So if the same coin would have been done probably by Amnesty International and the World Wildlife Fund, the Germans would probably love it. But now it's done by Facebook, so we hate it. So it's super irrational, but it's killing innovation. And this is basically how a political system reacts. And if there's no other one to talk to who is somehow neutral, or will give a better example, we will always hit that stuff like stablecoin, Libra, Facebook, that's bad. We all know Bitcoin, darknet, drug money, that's bad. We're a bit further, that's okay, that's gone. But as I mentioned, the lobby response is very intense, so I was kind of shocked by myself. And then it's important to have guys from academia, from industry, decent brands and companies who give examples which basically politicians can use with ordinary people. With AI, everybody's basically saying, yeah, have you seen Lisa Dole? The Go guy was beaten. In a normal speech, I've never seen anybody getting fascinated about it, if it's 500 normal people, because nobody ever played Go. So, and this is how it's not working on a political scope. Yeah, okay, since I'm done. So therefore, explaining the potential of DLT, I think I covered that as well. Be visionary, tell people how to save tax money. So this is how you basically get the politicians. And since my monitor is blinking and I want to have some time for Q&A, thanks for your attention.
Thanks very much. Maya, thanks very much. I will just open up for questions from the audience. Yes. Maybe, ladies first, sorry. Ladies first, please.
Is there any initiative which is covering Europe? So is there something where you, as politician, talk to your colleagues in Switzerland or I don't know, Austria, Belgium, or is there any a kind of European activity? I know European Union is doing something, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit what is going on there.
Yes, so I mean there is the initiative on the EU base, the EU high-level group. They are discussing it. They have regular calls, and I talk to people who are a member there. So I'm not a member, unfortunately, and they say some calls are good and some are not, like in every meeting. But the problem is we don't have a coordinated outcome. We have good papers, that's true, but it's as well only for some use case. And I really think they need to be brave, or somebody need to be brave and go out and align that, because otherwise we will never come to that area where I said that the countries are the sandboxes. So if something works out, it's not balanced back. And that's a governance problem again. And I was running out of time, because normally I as well raise the question. In 2 weeks in Berlin, there's the IGF, the Internet Governance Forum. So maybe we need something for DLT like that as well, because I'm absolutely not sure, being in that system for 2 years, who basically tries to put all of that together. In the EU, it's expert rounds, but obviously there is no aligned strategy, it's only papers. So it's not yet coming to whatever final result. No, unfortunately not.
Mm-hmm. Yes, open up.
You had a question?
Same question. Yes, Felix.
So maybe a little bit a provocative question. I mean, we are hearing that we need some kind of European initiatives. We heard about today a couple of times about Gaia X, yep. and that we have to push that forward. But we had similar initiatives in the past. For example, you have a background SAP as I have, and we all know Theseus, and we know all the money which was put into the European search engine, which is far better than Google. So what have we learned from these endeavors, and why now will Gaia X be a success and help us to make this vision a reality?
If we have learned, it will be a success. So at the moment it's an idea and a paper and it's good, but we are basically on a crossroad. So if we just try to build a super Google and some hosting idea for the 5 big brands who are in there, we will miserably fail. If the 5 big ones are just there to start because they actually already hosted, they already have a clue, and they did it, and from then on it will be a lively ecosystem, I really believe in that idea. So, but we are at that crossroad, and this is, even as in my opposition role, I don't criticize the idea in general, because every move is better than no movement. This is what we had for I don't know how many years. So, but otherwise, if it's only that 5 big guys running such a thing, we will burn money, because it will not work from a market perspective and not from a cultural perspective. So we don't have Google or Amazon or Facebook not because we were too stupid. We don't want that. We all feel uncomfortable somehow, so it would never have gotten that big over here. And I think if we really manage it this time to do it right, to build an ecosystem, that we can as well include the Mittelstand somehow, and maybe the state in the end only gives, let's say, a stamp or something. So I'm liberal, I don't want the state to run anything. But I think if there is basically, they're all competitors to some extent, and if a state is in the middle saying, look, I have no monetary interests, so I'm basically doing a bit of the data stewardship or something here, I give you my stamp, that's okay, you can join, then I think as well Mittelstand and all, they will donate or will basically join, and they don't have to give their data, they just have to plug in. So this would be my idea, because if there's benefit in there, if the state guarantees that you not get ripped off, then I guess we will participate. And then again, I think it will be a success in Europe, because turning it around, if I would be a guy from Estonia, having a wonderful infrastructure, everything is working, I would not just say, okay, we joined the telecom cloud from Germany because it's online now. So that's not going to happen. And then we have to have a good argument for them to plug in, and it can only be decentralization and interoperability.
Thank you for the very great presentation. So central bank digital currency has become a very popular topic, especially after the the Libra, and also Chinese government launched its own central government digital currency. Recently, we also have a Swiss National Bank exploring this with Swiss Digital Exchange. So what's German's view on CBDC? Thank you.
I mean, as said in the session this morning, we need a programmable or an e-euro, because if we can come up at least with something what people can decide on, the others will do it. So I wouldn't say that we need e-D-Mark or a German solution, so I think it's correct to do it on a European level, and there is some movement. But as said, with the stablecoin situation in Germany, we kind of banned it. We said no, for, in my sense, an absolutely irrational reason, and that's the danger. So hopefully, and talking to people from EZB and basically the Bundesbank, they were relatively open. As, the EZB said we have no issue with Libra. If they want to do it, they should do it. There's regulation. We think it will miserably fail. This was the only thing they did. So they were relatively calm and realistic, but the political process behind was somehow kind of hectic and flappy.
How would German policy, according to your perspective, how could it improve actually technology acceptance overall? From me, I just see overall we hardly know how to write AI, and now DLT becomes much more complex. We have one of the most restrictive privacy laws, GDPR, which I, as a citizen, I like it. As a company, I just think we're getting comparative disadvantages in our region. What is your perspective, and what do you think would Europe do in the future?
I mean, GDPR is at least a challenge. that's true. And
also impractical. You can't, if you even have a simple CRM system and your employee, your salesperson will leave the company, I would just wait to the first case, because it cannot, in most companies, it's very, very difficult to fully be compliant with it.
Yeah, you have to leave your smartphone at the border. But theoretically as well, if you go from Rheinland-Pfalz to Baden-Württemberg, because we have 16 data protection officers per state. So true, that's kind of our internal problem. In general, I think it can help to be an advantage. It takes longer for us to sort it out, and that's a problem, because speed is the only real patent in these days' worlds. So, but if you find it out, it's like the beginning with cloud solutions and hosting. So it came from the US, but with the first European data centers, in my old role, there were US customers or US companies hosting in Europe, accepting the latency, saying, yeah, okay, but it's at least your Cloud Act. So if we do that in a clever manner, and if we sort it out, and there is a lot to sort out for DLT, the right to be forgotten and all that stuff with on-chain, off-chain, but if that one works, and you have a fair system without monopolies, doing it in a distributed manner without a dictator in the middle, plus the, let's say, the how should I frame it? The good feeling of being in the scope of friendly data protection, then this is probably the killer argument against the companies we all named the GAFAs and the BUTs in the world, where we all like them but somehow struggle as well. We like their services, but we struggle with our mind or our understanding of a fair business model. And the guy from Bosch, who was basically as well saying, look, I get the business side, but as well he also showed like feelings and how it should be. This is really in our DNA, and I think that's the thing you can sell as well, because GDPR is complex, but on the other hand side, US started, even some states started, China's talking about, India's talking about, so there must be something. And they have, if they have smarter solutions, that's again back to politics, then accept it and basically turn it into your local legislative, because this is what politics never does, and that's a problem. So being in software industry, you put a prototype, it doesn't work, you change something, and with GDPR, it's already out there for, I don't know, 3 years right now. So we all know there are issues, but we've never touched it again, because everybody knows he will be blamed if you bring the topic up. But I think we have to readjust it, because it's just not working in some data mining cases. So there has to be GDPR 2.0 probably.
Yes. Any last question? So I think the political question is clear. Thank you very much for joining us here. Thanks.